The scent of vanilla and warm butter filled my kitchen as I pulled another batch of cookies from the oven. Not just any cookies. Grandma Rose's Secret Symphony cookies, the recipe that had started everything. The same recipe my family still thought of as nothing more than a quaint hobby. Just a small-town baker, my sister Diana had said at last month's family dinner, her voice dripping with condescension. It's sweet, really. While the rest of us built real careers, Emma's still playing with Grandma's recipe box. If only they knew that tomorrow morning, Sweet Legacy Artisanal Foods would go public with an estimated valuation of $890 million. I smiled, carefully transferring the golden brown cookies to a cooling rack. The secret wasn't just in the ingredients, though Grandma Rose's blend of spices was extraordinary. It was an understanding that sometimes the biggest dreams start at the smallest details. 5 years ago, I was working a soul-crushing job in corporate finance, just like Diana wanted. I had the corner office, the designer suits, the real career my family respected. But every Sunday, I would bake Grandma's cookies, following her handwritten recipe card exactly. It was my way of keeping her memory alive. Then came the day that changed everything. My coworker Sarah tried one of my cookies during a coffee break. "Oh my God," she moaned, closing her eyes. "Emma, these are incredible. Why aren't you selling these?" I laughed it off, but her words stuck with me. That night, I pulled out Grandma's recipe box, the one she left specifically to me in her will. My sister had rolled her eyes at the inheritance. Great, Emma gets a box of old recipe cards while I get the beach house. Totally fair. But as I went through the box again, I noticed something I'd missed before. Hidden in the back was a thin leather journal, its pages filled with Grandma's elegant handwriting. It wasn't just recipes. It was her dream for a business empire, one she'd never had the chance to build. "My dearest Emma," the first page read, "I'm leaving you these recipes because you're the only one who understands that success isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about creating something that brings joy, something authentic in the world of mass production. You have my recipes now, but more importantly, you have my dream." I stayed up all night reading her journal. Grandma Rose hadn't just been a talented baker, she'd been a visionary. Her notes detailed plans for an artisanal food company, one that would bring old-world quality to modern consumers. She even developed preservation techniques that would allow her baked goods to be shipped nationwide without losing their homemade taste. The next morning, I walked into my boss's office and quit my job. "You're making a huge mistake," he warned. "Nobody leaves Anderson and Mitchell to become a baker." My family's reaction was even worse. "Have you lost your mind?" Diana demanded when I told them. "You're throwing away a 6-figure salary to bake cookies." My parents exchanged worried looks. "Honey," my mother said gently, "maybe you should take some time to think about this. Your grandmother's recipes are lovely, but they're not exactly a business plan." But I had something they didn't know about: $50,000 in savings and Grandma Rose's detailed notes on scaling up production while maintaining quality. More importantly, I had her vision. I started small, renting space in a commercial kitchen during off hours. Every morning, I baked batches of Grandma's cookies, packaged them carefully following her preservation methods, and delivered them to local coffee shops. The response was immediate. People couldn't get enough of them. Orders started pouring in. "It's just beginner's luck," Diana said when she heard about my early success. "Wait until the novelty wears off." But it didn't wear off. Instead, something magical happened. A food blogger tried my cookies and wrote about them. The post went viral. Suddenly, I was shipping cookies nationwide, struggling to keep up with demand. That's when Sarah, my former coworker, called. "Emma, I need to talk to you about investment opportunities," she said. "My venture capital firm is very interested in artisanal food companies, and what you're doing with these traditional recipes, it's exactly what we're looking for." I almost dropped the phone. Sarah wasn't just a former coworker. She was now a partner at one of the biggest food and beverage investment firms in the country. The meeting with her partners was surreal. I brought samples of everything I was producing, not just the cookies, but all the other recipes I developed from Grandma's notes. Artisanal breads, small batch jams, specialty pastries that could be shipped anywhere while maintaining their fresh-baked quality. "This is remarkable," one partner said, examining my preservation techniques. "And these are all family recipes. My grandmother's," I explained. She was ahead of her time. They offered me $2 million in seed funding that day. Within 6 months, Sweet Legacy had its own production facility. Within a year, we were in high-end grocery stores nationwide. 2 years later, we had a line of retail bakery cafes in major cities. All while my family still thought I was just running a small local bakery. At least she seems happy, I overheard my mother telling Diana last Christmas. Though it's a shame she's not using her business degree for something more substantial. If they'd ever actually visited my little bakery, they would have seen the corporate headquarters next door, the fleet of delivery trucks, the hundreds of employees. But they were too busy with their real careers to check. Diana had made partner at her law firm. My parents bragged about it constantly. Meanwhile, I was quietly building an empire based on Grandma Rose's dream. Yesterday, Diana called to remind me about the upcoming family reunion. Try to dress professionally this time, she said. Not like a baker, and bring those cookies everyone likes. It's the least you can do since some of us are actually successful. I agreed pleasantly, not mentioning the Wall Street Journal reporter who'd been shadowing me all week for their cover story on Sweet Legacy's IPO. Not mentioning the Forbes 30 Under 30 photo shoot scheduled for next month. Not mentioning that tomorrow morning, when the stock market opened, I would become one of the wealthiest women in the state. Now, standing in my test kitchen, one of 12 in our development facility, I carefully packed a box of cookies for the family reunion. They were perfect, just like Grandma Rose had taught me. Simple, authentic, and worth more than anyone had guessed. My phone buzzed. Another message from our PR team about tomorrow's announcement. The press release was ready. The media coverage was lined up. In less than 24 hours, everyone would know that the small-town baker had built a multi-million-dollar company. I picked up Grandma's old recipe box, now displayed prominently in my office alongside our company's many awards. We did it, Grandma, I whispered. We built your dream. And tomorrow, my family would finally understand that sometimes the biggest success stories start with a simple recipe card and the courage to believe in something everyone else dismisses. The morning of the IPO, I woke before dawn, a habit I'd developed during my early baking days. But instead of heading to a small commercial kitchen, I made my way to Sweet Legacy's corporate headquarters, a gleaming 6-story building with our signature copper and cream logo shining above the entrance. Sarah met me in the lobby, already vibrating with excitement. The trading floor opens in 2 hours. Are you ready? Born ready, I replied, smoothing down my tailored blazer. No flour-dusted apron today. I had a different role to play. My executive team was waiting in the conference room, along with our investors and board members. The wall-mounted screens displayed financial news channels, all buzzing about the artisanal food phenomenon about to go public. There's already significant pre-market interest, our CFO reported. Initial indicators suggest we might open even higher than projected. My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. Don't forget the cookies for tonight's reunion, and try to dress appropriately for once. I smiled, tucking the phone away. In a few hours, my sister would have more to worry about than my outfit choice. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of final preparations and media interviews. I had just finished a call with CNBC when my assistant rushed in. Ms. Harrison, you need to see this. She handed me her tablet, displaying a local news website. My stomach dropped. There, in the lifestyle section, was a photo of my parents' house, accompanied by the headline, Local Family's Secret Recipe Becomes National Sensation. Someone had leaked the story early. Your mother's already called 3 times, my assistant added apologetically. Before I could respond, Sarah burst into the office. Emma, we're ready. It's time. I straightened my shoulders and grabbed my grandmother's recipe box. My good luck charm for important moments. Let's do this. The trading floor was electric with anticipation. As we watched the opening bell countdown, I thought about my journey. From a tiny commercial kitchen to this moment, about to take from Grandma's vision, I corrected her. She had plans for all of this, the production methods, the preservation techniques, even the business model. She just never had the opportunity to make it happen, but she trusted me to do it for her. My mother was still reading the newspaper article, tears forming in her eyes. It says here you're revolutionizing the artisanal food industry, that you found a way to maintain homemade quality in large-scale production. Using Grandma's techniques, I nodded. She was brilliant. She understood that people would always crave authentic, homemade taste. She just needed someone to believe in her dream enough to make it real. Why did he tell us? My father asked softly. when you started becoming successful? I sat down, taking a cookie for myself. Remember 3 years ago when I tried to tell you about opening our second production facility? Diana interrupted to announce her law firm partnership, and everyone spent the rest of dinner talking about that. Or last Christmas, when I mentioned our expansion plans and Mom suggested I take some business classes at the community college. They had the grace to look embarrassed. My company public. The bell rang. The numbers started moving. Opening at $42 per share, someone called out. Above projections. $45, $48, $52. By the time the dust settled, Sweet Legacy's stock had opened at $57 per share, valuing the company at just over $890 million. My phone exploded with notifications. Mom, Emma, why is there a news crew outside our house? Diana, what's going on? My colleagues are asking about Sweet Legacy. Dad, please call immediately. This must be a mistake. I handed my phone to my assistant. Hold all family calls for now. I'll see them at the reunion tonight. The rest of the day was a whirlwind of press conferences, interviews, and congratulatory meetings. By late afternoon, Sweet Legacy's stock had settled at $62 per share, exceeding even our most optimistic projections. Ready for the family reunion? Sarah asked as we left the office. I patted the box of cookies on my passenger seat, made from Grandma's original recipe, baked by me personally this morning despite having an entire production facility at my disposal. As ready as I'll ever be. The reunion was being held at Diana's house, her pride and joy, bought with her law partner's salary. I pulled up in my Tesla, noting how her expression soured as she watched me park. You're late, she called from the porch. And what are you wearing? I looked down at my designer suit, something appropriate. Inside, the family was gathered around the TV, which was, ironically, playing CNBC's coverage of Sweet Legacy's IPO. My mother was sitting frozen on the couch, staring at the screen where my official CEO headshot was displayed next to stock performance graphs. Emma, my father said slowly, would you like to explain why you're on national television? I set the cookie box on the coffee table, right next to the newspaper featuring my company's story. Because Sweet Legacy Artisanal Foods went public today. We're now valued at just under $1 billion. The silence was deafening. Deanna found her voice first. This is impossible. You're a baker. You make cookies in a little shop downtown. Actually, I said, opening the cookie box, I'm the CEO of the fastest growing artisanal food company in the country. The little shop downtown was just our first retail location. We now have 68 stores across 12 states, 3 production facilities, and over 800 employees. My mother picked up the newspaper with trembling hands. But, all these years, you never said anything. Would you have listened? I asked quietly. Every time I tried to talk about the business, you changed the subject. Diana called it my little hobby. Dad kept sending me job postings for real careers. We just wanted what was best for you, my father protested. No, I corrected him, you wanted what looked best to others. A corporate job. A prestigious title. Something you could brag about at dinner parties. You never actually asked what I was building. I pulled Grandma's recipe box from my bag and set it on the table. Grandma Rose understood. That's why she left me her recipes instead of beach house money. She knew I would see what you all missed. That these weren't just recipes. They were the foundation of an empire. Deanna picked up one of the cookies, staring at it like she'd never seen it before. All this from Grandma's cookies. The truth is, I continued, somewhere along the way, I realized that your approval didn't matter as much as honoring Grandma's legacy. So I stopped trying to make you understand and focus on building something meaningful. Diana was scrolling through her phone, her face growing paler. You're on the Forbes 40 under 40 list. Your net worth. Oh my God. About that, I smiled. Remember the beach house Grandma left you? The one you said was so much better than a box of old recipe cards. I bought the one next door last month. The closing papers came through this morning. My phone buzzed. Another message from the office. Our stock had closed at $68 per share. Sweet Legacy was now officially a billion-dollar company. I should go, I said, standing up. We have a celebration dinner with our board of directors tonight. But first, I opened Grandma's recipe box and pulled out her journal. I think it's time you all read this. Maybe then you'll understand what Grandma Rose knew all along. that sometimes the greatest legacies don't look like what you expect. As I walked to my car, I heard Deanna call out behind me, "Emma, wait." I turned. She was holding one of the cookies, looking at it like she was seeing it for the first time. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "We all are. We should have believed in you." "No," I replied, "you should have believed in Grandma. I just followed her recipe, not just for cookies, but for success." She knew that anything worth building takes time, patience, and the courage to ignore people who tell you your dreams are too small. That night, at the celebration dinner, I raised a toast to Grandma Rose. Her portrait hung in our headquarters lobby, her recipe box displayed proudly in a custom-made case beneath it. To the woman who knew that sometimes the sweetest success stories start in the kitchen, I said, and to everyone who's ever been told their dreams are just a hobby. Later, as I walked through our flagship store, watching customers line up for Grandma's cookies, now famous nationwide, I smiled thinking about how wrong my family had been. I wasn't just a baker. I was an entrepreneur who had turned a box of recipe cards into a billion-dollar legacy. And somewhere, I knew Grandma Rose was smiling too. The next morning, I arrived at my office to find Diana waiting in the lobby. She looked different, humbled somehow. "I brought coffee," she said, holding up a cafe bag. "And I was wondering if you might share another one of Grandma's recipes with me. Not to sell," she added quickly, "just to bake. I think maybe I need to understand what you and Grandma saw that the rest of us missed." I led her up to my office, where Grandma's recipe box sat on my desk. It was never just about the recipes, I told her, opening the box. It was about believing in something everyone else dismissed as simple. About seeing the extraordinary potential in ordinary things. "Like cookies?" she asked. "Like dreams," I corrected her, pulling out Grandma's journal. "Now let me show you what Grandma Rose really left us. Not just recipes, but a blueprint for turning passion into empire." Sometimes the biggest successes start with the smallest ingredients: flour, butter, sugar, and the courage to believe in something everyone else underestimates. Just ask my family. They finally understand that their small-town baker had the biggest dreams of all.